Everybody, let's give him praise. Yahweh deserves the best. If you don't, you'll be empty deep inside. Hey, praise comes from a lifestyle of worship. He deserves a happy times of praise.
What about the staring home and the deep and low? What about a fine hill? Life is beautiful and the sun is down when life is difficult.
Amen. For our Bible reading, let's turn our Bibles to Joshua chapter 8. As we pray, we will dedicate this projector. The church projector had some issues some time back. The projector we are using is someone's own. Someone has been gracious to us for about a year now. So the Lord has provided us with one. We're able to buy it. So we want to dedicate it and get it up as soon as possible. Joshua chapter 8, we begin reading from verse 30. Then Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, as Moses the servant of the Lord had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones, on which no iron tool had been used. On it they offered to the Lord burnt offerings and sacrificed fellowship offerings. There, in the presence of the Israelites, Joshua wrote on stones a copy of the law of Moses. All the Israelites, with their elders, officials, and judges, were standing on both sides of the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, facing the Levitical priests who carried it. Both the foreigners living among them and the native born were there. Half of the people stood in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses the servant of the Lord had formerly commanded when he gave instructions to bless the people of Israel. Afterwards, Joshua read all the words of the law, the blessings and the curses, just as it is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses had commanded that Joshua did not read to the whole assembly of Israel, including the women and children, and the foreigners who lived among them. This is the word of the Lord.
Good morning. I want to thank the missions elder for that wonderful update. It's easy to see those pictures here on the screen. It's a different story when you are there to see them with your eyes. Better still, it's a different story when you sleep inside. We want to thank the Seminary Church. We've had this long tradition of engaging seriously with our missionaries. Some of us served with DMS. I served with DMS for 6 years and have slept in such situations, many times on the floor, not even on top of something that looks like a bed. So we can give you a lot of stories about how these realities are. But the amazing thing that the church is doing to ensure that our missionaries who are out there in the field have a very conducive environment to serve God better is unimaginable. And the appreciations that they give all the time, the monetary contributions that we even send to them outside of what the meager stipends they get from EMS is well appreciated. So we want to thank you for your constant contribution and your prayers, your support and encouragement to these ones. We're confident of greater things ahead to God's glory. Amen. We'll take our reading today from the book of Judges as we have it in the bulletin. Book of Judges. And our intention is to to look at the topic sustaining godly leadership in the society. And I'm taking the entire Judges chapter 6 to chapter 9 as the immediate setting for the text that we're going to read. I would have loved that we go through the entire chapter 9, but we will not do that, which is why you have it 7 in the bracket. We'll read chapter 9 from verse 1 from 24. We'll look at an interesting account that the book of Judges captures there. But before we do that, let us pray once more. We're thankful, Heavenly Father, for this time and for your word that we have in our hands. We ask for your blessings upon it. That you speak to us, speak to our hearts, grant us understanding, and help us to take all the lessons you desire for us to take that will improve our lives today. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Judges chapter 9. I'll start reading from verse 1. Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's brothers in Shechem and said to them and to all his mother's clan, ask all the citizens of Shechem, which is better for you, to have all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons rule over you, or just one man? Remember, I'm your flesh and blood. When the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Shechem, they were inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he's better to us. They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith, and Abimelech used it to hire reckless scoundrels who became his followers. He went to his father's home in Ophrah, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, escaped by hiding. Then all the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered beside the great tree at the pillar in Shechem to crown Abimelech king. When Jotham was told about this, he climbed up on the mountain top of Gerizim and shouted to them, listen to me, citizens of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. One day, the trees went out to anoint the king for themselves. They said to the olive tree, be our king. But the olive tree answered, should I give up my oil by which both gods and humans are honored to hold sway over the trees? Next, the tree said to the fig tree, come and be our king. But the fig tree replied, should I give up my fruits, so good and sweet, to hold sway over the trees? Then the tree said to the vine, come and be our king. But the vine answered, should I give up my wine, which is but goats and humans to hold sway over the trees? Finally, all the trees said to the thorn bush, come and be our king. The thorn bush said to the trees, if you really want to anoint me king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, then let fire come out from the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon. Have you acted honorably and in good faith by making Abimelech king? Have you been fair to Jerubbaal and his family? Have you treated him as he deserves? Remember that my father fought for you and risked his life to rescue you from the hand of Midian. But today, you have revolted against my father's family. You have murdered his 70 sons on a single stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his female slave, king over the citizens of Shechem, because he's related to you. So have you acted honorably and in good faith towards Jerubbaal and his family today? If you have, may Abimelech be your joy, and may you be his joy too. But if you have not, let fire come out from Abimelech and consume you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let the fire come out from you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and consume Abimelech. Then Jotham fled, escaping to Beer, and he lived there because he was afraid of his brother Abimelech. After Abimelech had governed Israel for 3 years, God stirred up animosity between Abimelech and the citizens of Shechem, so that they acted treacherously against Abimelech. God did this in order that the crime against Jerubbaal's 70 sons, the shedding of their blood, might be avenged on their brother Abimelech and on the citizens of Shechem who had helped him murder his brothers. The Lord will the end of his word. Sustaining godly leadership in society. This is quite an interesting story that is captured in the time of the Judges. And I've had a kind of a feast, really, reflecting on this passage. And what I hope to share with us this morning is probably just a small bit of what I have learned from my reflections here. And I hope you will join me in reflecting not only here, but after we've reached our homes. Now, general elections are here again in Nigeria, and we're warming up to folks. And these times are usually characterized by words and horse tradings and all kinds of promises, including gimmicks and manipulations. There are all kinds of manifestos flying here and there. And even the electorates themselves, they are moved by one feeling, one kind of dream, one desire, wishes, and the other. In times like this, what should direct our motive to vote? Now, the account in the book of Judges presents to us a new generation that had emerged. And as Judges will say in chapter 2 from verse 10, this generation knew not the Lord nor all he had done for Israel. And so they forsook Yahweh and served the Canaanite idols. They were the ones who encouraged and caused them to derail, to forsake God. And so God himself was angry and he forsook them and handed them over to their enemies. So at different times we'll see that a downward spiral actually continued to happen in the lives of the children of Israel. And the question raised as a follow-up to this apostasy that Israel continued to demonstrate is this: was it a leadership failure or was it a family failure? It's a similar question you want to ask when you look at our situation in Nigeria, these experiences that we are having. Many times we blame the system, we blame the government, we blame leadership. But is it a leadership failure or is it a family failure? I remember the topic we're looking at, sustaining godly leadership in the society. How are we able to do that? Now, if you look closely, you will see that leadership failure is rooted in family failure. God has given the children of Israel instructions on how to instill godliness in their families and in their homes. If you read Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 to 9, especially popularly known Deuteronomy 6 as the Great Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with everything that you are. And then if you read on, you will see the instructions on how, from the homestead, parents are supposed to mentor their children to bring them up in the fear and the knowledge of God. But what we see in Judges is a failure to adhere to that instruction. And ultimately, we'll come to see that at the root of all of this is a rejection of the rulership of God. Generation after generation, age after age, time after time, we've come up with human ideologies on how to govern ourselves. The more we do that, the more we remove God from his place. That is what we see in the life of the children of Israel. Their rejection of the relation of Yahweh, starting from the home and in the nation at large, and it caused them to derail. And there are consequences for such decisions. In the account we're looking at this morning will show us the roles of these institutions, that is the home and the society, and the consequences therein. And we should look at that in 3 points and then concludes. And one of the big questions that we shall seek to answer this morning is this: how did Israel get it wrong? How did Israel get it wrong? And we will continue to apply as we progress before the end of our text. The first point we're looking at is the choices parents make. And I'm deliberately the tense that I'm using so that it applies to us in today's time. The choices that parents make. So how did the children of Israel, how did they get it wrong? It was first in the choices that the parents of that time made. Gideon is the character Jerubbaal, or the person, not the character actually, the person Jerubbaal that we read in the text. That is another name for him after he contended. You remember the story of Gideon when he was called by God to serve as leader, and when God proved to him that it's really me calling you Gideon, and one of the things he did was to destroy the temple of Baal. And people came and said, "What? The Midians will kill us. You've destroyed their temple that they put in our state. We're finished." And they asked his father, "Bring him out so that we'll kill him." And the father said, "Well, if Baal is really God, let him contend for himself. And let him kill the one that has destroyed his temple." You see, we have people today who fight for their God, right? Yes, they fight for their God, they kill for their God. If you just insult their God, no, don't even insult him. Just say something not nice about their God. They will kill you. So we keep saying, "Well, if that God is God, why can't he just come up and take care of his business," right? That's why I like the song that we sing. Jesus, you know they carry me play, oh. You know that song? You carry me when some carry their gods. Our God carries us. Our God fights for us. But others, they fight for their gods. Because their gods cannot move. They have mouths, but they cannot speak. That is why Gideon got the name Jerubbaal, the one that contended with Baal and survived. Fire now, Baal, come and take action. That's why he got the name. He was one of the greatest judges that Israel had. He was a nobody from a small clan, but God exalted him and used him to rescue the nation from the Midianites that oppressed them. I wish I had time to tell you how the Midianites treated them. But read the account of Gideon, you will see. And for those of you who don't know history, I want to tell you that the Fulani and Hausa Emirates treated our forefathers in the same way that the Midianites treated the children of Israel. You read that account, you understand what I'm talking about. When they come to collect taxes from our forefathers, their horses never ate grass. Our forefathers would enter inside the barn and bring grains and feed their horses. Read the account, you will understand how our forefathers were treated. So that maybe when you come to vote, you have some sense. Gideon's 300-man army has been the subject of songs throughout generations. God used him to bring great victory to the children of Israel. And during his time, God used him to give the nation rest and prosperity for 40 years. See, when there is godly leadership, there is respite in the nation. But when there is no godly leadership, I don't need to tell you. But I want us to apply a bit from this. You see, God can use anyone he chooses to accomplish his purpose. In Nigeria, he can do that. He's done that before. If only the people will trust in God, he can use anyone. Gideon will say, I am the least among all the peoples. In fact, my clan is a very small one. But God is able to use the least, the one that everyone will consider not strong, foolish, nothing. God is able to use that one to accomplish his purpose. But there was a problem somewhere. Gideon made a very terrible mistake. The choices we make, friends, the choices we make. Gideon made some terrible choices along family lines. that had major consequences along family and even national lines. See, he had a son, and that son is the one we read from, Abimelech. And this son, he got it from his concubine in Shechem. So, concubine in contemporary English would be side chick, or baby mama. You've been hearing those terms. You see, young people identify with this more than the BBCs. If you don't know the BBCs are the ones that are born before computer. That's the BBC, born before computer. Right. They understand concubine better. But see, the young generation, they understand side chick, baby mama. See, that is what the scripture will tell us. When you think you are standing, you should do what? Take heed. Be careful lest you fall. Sometimes you can be driven by whatever lies before you, power and all of those. Probably on his power, he went and he fell into this sin of immorality. And that is why Abimelech will be considered as an illegitimate child. And you see, the kind of names we give to children for no fault of theirs. I think it is time we call illegitimate parents, not children. Because you see, however children come, they are a gift from God. It is those who have engaged in the act that are illegitimate, irresponsible. The stigma should not be with the child. But how can you help Abimelech? That was the situation of the time. And Shechem, it was one of the old cities in Canaan, and it became part of the area that the tribe of Manasseh conquered. And so a part of the old tradition of Canaan remained in that city. And this decision that Gideon took will be detrimental to his family and to the nation at large, as we've seen in the text. And so we come to see how that Abimelech rose with an ambition to fill the leadership vacuum created by the death of his father Gideon. Initially, Israel wanted Gideon and his household to rule over them. But Gideon declined, and he made a profound step. You see, he wanted to take the minds of the people back from the original understanding that God entered a covenant with them and said, "You will be for me a kingdom of priesthood, a holy nation. Invariably, you are my people, I am your God, and because I am your God, and I am a holy God, you shall be a holy people as well." Gideon said to them, "The Lord himself will rule over you." If you read chapter 8, verse 23. "None of my children or my descendants will rule over you, but God himself shall be your king." Apparently, Abimelech was not in sync with this arrangement. He had this little agenda. And what was that agenda? Abimelech may have, over the years, considered himself marginalized, given his birth status. No father figure was also present in his life. And I can tell you that I can see, as many of you will as well, the challenge of absentee fathers in the lives of the children, especially those who have male children. When there is no that fatherly voice in the house, order will be missing, unless the Lord himself have mercy. But it runs across all the children when there is no fatherly figure. There is a big vacuum that is created. That is why we are calling that God will raise godly men who will give godly direction to their homes. But many of the men are absent today. Even when some of them are present, they are absent. They are physically present, but they are every way absent. Abimelech was operating from a point of wound, which may have created a vacuum in him. He was working hard to fill a void that he grew up with, knowing in his mind that I am the son of a side chick. I am an illegitimate child. No father figure. Instead of allowing Yahweh to fill his emptiness, he decided to use violent means to seek power to fill that void. Should you belong to that kind of situation, I can tell you it applies to all of us. There is this video that our children used to watch a lot. The donut repair team. They say life without Jesus is like a donut because there's a big hole in the middle of it. Without Jesus, all of us, we had that big hole. But Jesus came and filled it up. So irrespective of your birth status, irrespective of your family status, if you don't have Jesus, you may be wealthy, but you are poor in spirit. Dead, actually. Only Jesus can fill that hole. Some go to prostitution to fill that hole. Some go to all kinds of drunkenness, addiction, and what have you to fill that hole. Only Jesus can fill that hole. Abimelech went the wrong way to fill that hole. But he missed it. And I can tell you, as I look at the candidates that are vying for, especially presidency, I'm not so much interested, especially in Plateau, the local politics that is going on. I'm not so much interested in it. Because our people attach so much sentiment to it that when you come to critique a situation, they see it as an attack and they will take knives and challenge you. Among ourselves? So I'm not interested in that. Whatever we do, let's go ahead and do it. While we still have the strength. But if you look at some of the candidates we have at national level, many of them do not know their true history and identity. And they want power by all means to cover a void. It's a void they are trying to cover. And that is why they are looking for that power. Let us avoid such people. And if you look at our text, you see that the horror through which Abimelech murdered his half-brothers is so devastating and unprecedented. His quest to remove opposition by all means was so consuming. 70 of your brothers, slaughtering them on one stone. You can imagine the sight. One person alone, the blood that will come out of that place, 70. Bringing the next one, putting them down on top of the blood of their departed brother. You can imagine that. His townspeople that sponsored his kingship, they gave him money and he hired bandits. They are his followers. That is what some of our contestants are doing today. They are using, in their own cases, money they are using to eliminate all opposition. You know, especially when they did the primary elections, monies were shared in dollars. Do you know who they were slaughtering on that altar? You and I. Yes. They were slaughtering us. But we'll come to see how about those who supported Abimelech will equally read from it. Sadly, the masses will equally suffer in the process. You know, even the current Naira hardship. Some have been saying that it is all the political dealings. But are we suffering or not? We are suffering. So they will fight their battles there, they will deal with each other, but we will still suffer. May God have mercy. Gideon may have never seen anything wrong with a little fling with a woman in Shechem on his way to do his campaigns. But the aftermath of that act caused the whole nation great pain and sorrow. Because it was rooted, that choice was rooted in selfishness, sinfulness, and disobedience to God. And that is why I can say to you, friends, the bad choices we make as individuals Many times we say, it is my life. It will have great consequences for you yourself, your family, and it will affect all of us. So be careful the choices you make in your life today. Sustaining godly leadership in the society. Who said Israelite got it wrong because first, the choices that parents make. The second point talks about the choices communities make. Now, many times the choices in communities are rooted in bad foundations from parental decisions. It is interesting how Abimelech began his political campaign. Look at how he leveraged his maternal lineage as his launch pad and used that against his brothers. Remember, he said to the Shechemites, I am your flesh and blood. Look at verse 2. That's what he said to them, right? I am your flesh and blood, making reference to history. My mother is your sister. And the person who fathered me abandoned me. It was you people that raised me. You must forgive me, we're in election period, so somehow everything falls in place. Any of the contestants, when they come to your place, they try to show you how connected they are with you. I know one of the presidential candidates. He has a wife from all the geopolitical zones of Nigeria. So that when he goes there, he will say, my wife is one of you. Abimelech did the same. See, those who are doing it now, they are not the ones who started it. It has been happening. They themselves affirmed that he was their brother. Look at verse 3. And you know what? Somehow this reminds me of the conversation between Eve and the serpent. It's in a similar pattern. Is it true that God said if you eat this, you become... No, actually you will not die. It's because you become like one of the gods. You see how manipulation starts? They begin to drop something small. When you build leadership based on nepotistic sentiments, the end is a disaster. If you want a leader, want that leader for the right reasons. Not for any tribal connection, not for any religious connection, but for the credibility that the candidate will bring to the table. Abimelech didn't have anything on his scorecard, only blood lineage. And he said, I'm your brother. He did not bring any manifesto to show the kind of godly leadership he was going to give the Shechemites and invariably the children of Israel. You know, it's very funny. Again, you have to forgive me, because these are the realities of our times. I want us to see how the scripture is leading to our current situation. I was listening to the Minister of Information. You heard him too? Oh, you heard him? I thought it was only me. Translation. Mischief is like a monster that will consume its owner. It has no controller. It cannot be controlled. It's like a wildfire. Community leaders are supposed to be models and guides to the community. They're supposed to be the compass, the mental grid, and the consciousness of the people. But the leaders of Shechem clearly lacked such integrity. And this is shown in the story, the fable about trees that Jotham, the only one that escaped out of the 70 that Abimelech killed, the youngest son of Gideon. He told that story from verse 7 to 15. And I'm not interested in rereading the story. You can read it anytime. It's an interesting one. But there's an interesting thing that Jotham did. He made use of an historic location to capture the sensitive nature and significance of his message. Mount Gerizim is located in the central Samaritan area. And it's about 30 miles north of Jerusalem. Samaria is, of course, the capital city of the northern kingdom when the kingdom split into two. And Shechem is right at the heart of it. So if you look at the location, you have Mount Gerizim to one side and Mount Ebal to the other side. And Shechem is in the middle, in the valley, between these two mountains. And if you look at Deuteronomy chapter 27 especially, when Moses led the nation in a covenant renewal ceremony, it was on that part, where the blessings and the curses of the covenant will be read from Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. So, Jotham was deliberate when he climbed that mountain. He was to bring a lot of things back to their minds about the position of the nation, that we have a duty to the God that we've entered the covenant into with, to be loyal to Yahweh, to be faithful to the covenant, to be a holy nation. But clearly, what the people had demonstrated was out of line. And that is why Jotham's message was going to remind the Israelites of their failure to adhere to the true identity that they had in Yahweh, to remind them of the covenant stipulations, and to remind them of the consequences that will follow for violating the covenant. Like I said earlier, the fable is an interesting one. There was a meeting in the Council of Trees, and they had this desire to choose for themselves a leader from among themselves, of course. They had the olive tree, the fig tree, and the vine. And all of these ones there, they had a primary duty that was just too special for them to abandon to become leaders. And so they ended with the thorn bush. You know, I can imagine such an opportunity is given to someone today of leadership. Many will jump at it. Because we all want to be in front. We want to be in charge. We love the prestige. We love the benefits. We love all of this, don't we? The name it carries. How people will worship us. We are not thinking about service because that is not what is in our minds. Benefit is what comes first. I look at the state of our country, Nigeria, and I can tell you that if they will gather the whole people in my village to come and beg me to be president of Nigeria, I will not. Because the work is too much. How am I even coping being pastor in just one church? I'm not talking about when I was living in LO. Just one church. So when you see a situation so tough, and you see people running after it, trust me, it's not that they want. They're not there for offer service. They want to go and loot us blue black. That's what they want to do. But what we see, in some sense, to apply a bit from this fable, is that leadership is not the most important duty of all. Yes, it is not. It's one duty, it's a duty, but it's not the most important duty. Because these other three say, I have a primary duty and it's more important to me than being a leader. Can you see the task that God has given you as very important? And don't have to compare it to any other one that will make you feel yours is very small. Whatever duty God has given to us is important, as long as we identify it. What is most important is that first and foremost we are God's children. And through that, God will help us understand where He wants us to serve. So we see from the story that thorn bush accepted the offer. And we know that Jotham was deliberate in using thorn bush as an example. And of course, Abimelech is the one in the picture. It is equally another term for referring to an illegitimate child. Because you bring pain, you pierce the family unit by reason of the nature of which that child will come. After all, the other trees gave their functions. Which function did the thorn bush do? Which function did it give? There is no function. See, you know, they say, come on, they say, that's okay. It didn't, leadership, because of its toughness, when you give people, they want to resist it first until you say, no, just. You know, it's the same in the church. In the past, when people are good in leadership in church, they cry, they beg them before they take it. But now, very soon, we'll start putting posters. So the Thomas accepted the offer without arguing, because there was no inequality that the John Bush expressed. And immediately he called his subjects to come under his cover. The question is, does a John Bush have any shade? How can other trees, as huge and as tall as they were, how can they come under a short and a small thorn bush? And you know that coming close will equally prick them. Don't shake. See, the idea is if I'm your king, I should give you covering. Come under my covering. But this is how this tool will play out. By eliminating his brothers, Abimelech limited the nation of possible quality leaders. 70 men. Quality leaders. That is what our political parties do in their primaries. Because all of us don't participate. So quality leaders are deprived us. I beg, tell me. Look at the parties. If we were given the option, will these ones be the candidates? Abimelech limited the nation of possible quality leaders. Some are making us to stoop so low by all standards so that they can be leaders. And while we suffer to go that low, we are yet clapping for them. We are hailing them. When we can see the incapacity and the inability that they have played. Remember, no matter how educated we are in our country, we have professors and all whatnot. It is said that our president does not have a primary school certificate. So, how can we go under his shade? Professors. Primary school. You understand the picture? Anytime he starts, you say, come under my... And if you want to come under that shade, you have to bend down. In fact, for some of you that have big professors, you have to lie down. Before you're a big... You know what I'm talking about? This is how we have stood so low. Well, we have another chance now. We have another chance now. Because there are some of them that are still, we don't know whether they really went to school. We have another chance. We have another chance. So that is the thorn bush. When you have a thorn bush as someone that is your leader that have to go under his shade, you're in trouble. If only for the shade, but there are thorns as well. You understand that? Oh, we know what thorns do. So the point to this statement is for the other priests to really evaluate their position on making the thorn bush their king. If really they had a full understanding of what the thorn bush was. And you come to see from Jotham's position what the fable was for. It was to pose the question if the people of Shechem acted honorably, as we see in verse 16. And for me, one lesson I learned is this. Most times, those who have nothing to offer, those who are idle, they are the ones who are quick to volunteer to lead. Most times. But the sad thing is, those who are gifted will stand by the side and watch. Talk. This is a recipe for disaster, and the Lord help us. Jotham will finally act in accordance with the ancient Near Eastern tradition. That is why you see the application of the story is ending with a typical disclaimer. Blessings and curses. But when given his favor, he was standing on a superior moral position. And we can see clearly where the end of that was going to be. Curses. Look at verse 19 to verse 20. If you compare that with verse 15, especially the B part. Verse 15 says, then Tongu said to the priest, if you really want to anoint me king over you, come and take refuge in my shelter. But if not, then let fire come out of the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon. The cedars of Lebanon are known for their fine wood. To consume them means to impoverish the nation. Come under my shadow and impoverish you. And if you look at verse 19 and 20, Jotham asked them, have you acted honorably and in good faith towards Jerubbaal and his family today? And then he says, if you have, may Abimelech be your joy. May you be in honeymoon with Abimelech. And may you be his joy too. Verse 20. But if you have not, let fire come out from Abimelech and consume you. The season of Shechem and Beth Millo. And let fire come out from you. The season of Shechem and Beth Millo and consume Abimelech. And the end of the story will resolve this item. The Shechemites and the children of Israel showed how they were unjust and lacked integrity by supporting Abimelech. And he sought to wipe off an entire family that was already weak. Remember, Gideon, when he was confronted by the angel, he said, my clan is even the smallest. Probably that is why he had many children. When they said all of our missionaries have 9 children, you were laughing. I told you here, I am number 7 out of 10 that my parents had. But you know what? I actually asked my mother, whose idea was it? And she said it was her idea, that she actually wanted 12. Yeah. But today, it looks like it's the men that are pushing their wives to have more children. In the case of my parents, it was my mother's idea. And I said, why? And she said, and truly, her answer connects very much with Gideon. She said, I'm from a very small family in our village, from a very small family. And her parents actually have only the 2 of them. Only the 2 of them. And any time, so between herself and her younger brother, the gap is so wide, and the both of them are alive. He is a retiree now. He should be in his early 70s. Her younger brother. He still calls her mother. Because the gap between them is so wide. All the others in between them, they will give birth to them, they will die. Give birth to them, they will die. So when her mother gave birth to her younger brother, the mother didn't want to hold him because she didn't want to get used to him. Because she complained he was going to die too. So my mother was then the senior teenager, was the one who nursed her younger brother. So he's grown up to call her mommy till she married. So she said to me, what I have lost in my family, the fellowship I have lost, is what I have found in my children. That's amazing. I was deeply touched by that. Gideon was from a small clan. They had 70 children. You can understand. Now you can get the situation of Abimelech wiping them all off. Only one remaining. Friends, this is a critical time that we're in. And we must ask ourselves, in all that we are doing, especially as we face these elections, are we acting honorably? Are we acting in good faith when we choose leaders in our country? Like Israel, if care is not taken, we will choose the murderers of our brothers, people who will surround themselves with bandits and killer herdsmen and criminals and Boko Haram, all kinds of nonsense, and we'll make them our leaders. If care is not taken, that's what we're going to do.
You may ask me how, and I'll tell you that when you take with levity raising a godly family, when you fail to make the Lord the king of your life, when you fail to make the Lord the king and the leader of your family, when you even fail to put God first in everything you do, when you fail to be a witness to the God that you serve in all the places of your influence, and I will ask, when you fail to vote, or when you even vote but vote the wrong candidate, that is how you're doing this. Show me a Christian today and I will show you the hallmark of immorality, compromise, love of money, hatred of one another, no political consciousness. You don't register to vote. You don't even go and vote when you register. You say there's too much sun, the crowd is too much. You go home. You don't take such matters seriously. We don't see it as a matter of life and death. That's why we take it with levity. That is how we have sold out our rights. All that we are good at is complaining. No action. This simple just not bazaar, we have failed to put our candidate. This simple just not bazaar. We have failed. How bad? It's not people who want full ankle here, they control all of us. That is why we will continue to have Abimelech as our leaders. And we will continue to cry. Probably we enjoy crying. Why can we not learn? The last point talks about the consequences of the choices made. So we've looked at the choices that parents make, the choices that communities make, and we'll look at the consequences of those choices. As I said earlier, there are consequences to the poor choices that we make at all levels. And what we're looking at under this point is the result of the first 2 points that we've discussed briefly. Remember, Yahweh is the king of the children of Israel, but they rejected his leadership. And this is what they got for themselves. First, we see that Abimelech killed his 70 brothers on one stone. It was as if he was sacrificing them as a coronation celebration. You know, when a king is anointed and coronated, sacrifices were offered. For Abimelech, it was his brothers. Secondly, the nation never knew peace for all the time of Abimelech. All the time he was ruling over them. His period was characterized by strife and internal conflict that further decimated the nation. If you read further from verse 26 up towards the end of that same chapter 9, you will see how that happened. Civil war, in-house fighting. These were people who were fighting to even protect the little population that they were. Now, it's an in-house fighting. And this is very similar to our story in our country. See, if we look back small, many of us will remember. And some of you remember more than some of us because some of us were quite young when we had Buhari the first time as president in the early 80s. I hope you know that most of what we're witnessing today happened then. Okay, thank you. Those who know will remember. Including the change of currency. Yes. There is nothing that is new, brethren. He did all of this. And when he was coming, there were actually very few voices that said, this does not mean well for us. But we didn't listen. But I can tell you that if parents who witnessed those situations rose to the occasion and said, no, this is what this person was, probably not change something, I don't know. Why would you think that you will do different? It's the same person. Nothing has changed about him. You will not do But you see, there was something that followed after that election. Here in Jos, after we rejected our own, claiming that he was weak and corrupt, I remember from many parts of Jos to some part of southern Kaduna, people took Fulani sticks and put on their shoulders to show their support for Buhari. Some of them carried Buddha in the brazen daylight and did Al-Wala ablution and demonstrated the Muslim prayers. Christians I'm talking about, to show their support for Buhari. Well, here we are. As you make your bed, we have suffered all kinds of attack, land grabbing, and persecution from the same person that we celebrated. And those groups that celebrated the most during those elections are the ones that are suffering the most now. I don't want to go into conversations, but I challenge some of the leaders in some of those places. Look at what your people are doing. I remember one of the leaders, he asked me, he said, how do you know that this happened in my place? I said, I heard people speak this dialect. Who are the people that speak such and such dialect? And he could not respond further. Now elections are here again. And the sad thing is that we have some politicians who are brazenly declaring that they are going to continue from where he stopped. And we are still routing for them. Haba! Are we confused? See, for me, such candidates have already failed now. Do we want where we are? So, if you want to vote continuity, now you said. I know that there's some countries when leaders are not delivering, the parliaments will impeach them. And if the parliament fails, the people will come out and ground the country until the leader resigns or they chase him out. Which country was that? They chased the president out of his palace. Recently, it was last year. You don't perform, they chase you out. And bring another one. Where is the strength of our will? There was a time Nigeria rose up. IBB must go. You remember that time? Did he not go? A military leader, IBB must go, and the country was shut down. And he left. Where is that being? Thirdly, the consequences. As a means of God's judgment, God put an evil spirit between Abimelech and the people of Shechem. And they acted treacherously against him. If you look at verse 23. So his allies have now become his enemies. And so there was severe internal strife, and they kept killing themselves. Division has entered into the house. I think something is happening with some of the major political parties in our country. They are so divided now. We don't know why. Or do we know? Do we know why? Do you know why? I don't. I want you to educate me. Division. Because the alliance they had forged initially was based on deception, selfishness, sentiment, and all kinds of sinfulness. Now, the rooster is back home to crow. Yes. We don't know how this will look like, but we are here. God will help us. When your party is leading and they are bringing policies, you say they are against my election. I don't understand that. How can such thing happen? Talk. God vindicated Jotham and his judgment of Abimelech and the Shechemites was very swift and severe. May the Lord have mercy. Eventually, the prominence that Abimelech sought after all his life ended at the feet of a woman. Look at verse 52 and verse 53. When he was about to set their city on fire, just dropped the top of a millstone on his head, and his skull cracked. That was his end. And he said to his boy, run over me so that he will not be said that the woman killed him. Cracked. He pursued that power, but he lasted only 3 years. The shortest account of a judge in the book of Judges. The shortest, 3 years. When you see people pursuing power by all means, they will not last. And even among the ones that are pursuing it, they will not last. You just watch and see. They will not last. He lost his life in a humiliating way. Those who connive to sell us out, they will never live to enjoy this power. Let me conclude with a few applications. I've applied some already. But it's important for us to notice that godly leaders are people raised in godly homes. We must start from the home. From the home. If we must breed godly leaders at all levels of society. We must be deliberate. If you look around you, all of these hardened criminals, these killers, rapists, abusers of spouses, they all had parents. What happened in their upbringing? Something went wrong somewhere. We must demonstrate godliness before we can teach godliness. So it starts with us. And no one can think that they have it all. No, it's a struggle, but we must be deliberate. We must engage. It's hard work. It's hard work. You fall down, get up. Let's keep moving on. We must make it. It's for the sake of posterity. Looking at this account, it demonstrates that Abimelech was the opposite of whom God would want as a leader over his people. Children of Israel were supposed to understand this from this experience going forward. But did they learn? And that is why, even to us today, the leaders that we choose or allow to rule us, you understand what I'm saying? The kind of people that we allow to lead us, they are a reflection of ourselves. They reflect our deepest desires and needs. Because what characterizes society in general often characterizes its leader. So like leaders, like people. Like people, like leaders. Leadership founded through dishonesty and fraudulent means will end in deceitfulness and betrayal. The same way it came. It's also important for us to keep this at the back of our minds that immorality can never beget righteousness. Jotham speaks of honor, integrity, honesty, and divine standard of justice. But Gideon's infidelity brought Abimelech, who later became a snare to the nation. If you want to fix a wrong, you have to go back to the foundation and fix it. But you handle it from the top. You think you can just renovate it. It doesn't work. You keep having cracks. Fix it from the foundation. When the Lordship of Yahweh is rejected, it is an open call to anarchy. That is what we're facing in our country today. So when we use mischief to put leaders, we will pay for it with mischief that we will harvest. Whatever you sow, you shall reap. When you go into a covenant with the God of other people, spiritually, you become like that people. Oh yeah. Because God will not share his glory and space with any idol. He will exist and allow you to enjoy your honeymoon. He did that to the children of Israel. If you read Ezekiel, you see the account. He left and they suffered. So Abimelech is a demonstration of a family dysfunctionality. And we witness it every day in our context. That is why we have children who are neither loyal to their family, nor are they loyal to God. They are rogues. Even when we bring the hardship on ourselves, sometimes we begin to feel as if God is absent and He does not seem to be here. But you know what? When God allows us to go through those situations, He is giving us the opportunity to evaluate our choices. Sooner or later, God will certainly deal with evil and wicked leaders and all their supporters. So remember, the choices we make today will impact generations to come after we ourselves are gone. The seed of sin takes a very deep root, friends. That is why its effect is lasting. Are we not struggling with the seed that came through Ishmael? Do you know when it was planted? That is why God raised His church to be His voice, to speak to the ills and the wrongs of nations, of communities, and of families, and play the role, the gap that is created by the absence of a spouse, so there can be balance in the families. And in the end, irrespective of whom we elect, just as it was with the children of Israel, God remains the sovereign King and Lord. Whether He is acknowledged or not, He is Yahweh, the King of kings and the Lord of lords, and He owns Nigeria. Amen. And He is a holy, He is a righteous, and He is a just God. And only those who walk with Him can demonstrate His character. But if we have faith, we put our faith in humans, irrespective of the party they're coming from, we have made them to be gods. As we go out to vote, may God have mercy on us. Amen. Let's bow our heads in prayers. Father, may the experience of the book of Judges teach us to allow You to lead us. And may You help us as a nation, as we go out to vote, that it will be a demonstration of our righteousness and our love for You. And may You grant Yourself the victory in these elections. In Jesus' name we pray.